Rama 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 Bhagwan Shri Yogi Ramsuratkumar ki Jai. Sarvam Yogi Ramsuratkumar Ashram Today morning, we were talking about the Kailash mountain. Every day, we have been singing Bhagwan's powerful Nama for 1 hour, both in the morning and in the evening, for which we are grateful, absolutely grateful to Bhagwan for giving us this opportunity to be able to sing together. So we shall offer our grateful pranams. We have been seeing, one after the other, the different leelas of Bhagwan from his Kripa Samudram, from the ocean of grace, and the stories of his Nama's glory. So this morning, I started to say about the Italian sisters, Olga Anna, her sister Giulia, and Verena. They had come to Thiruvanamalai in 1991, and they spent just a few days at the feet of Bhagwan. She says, this Olga says, those were the days we thought would never end. Those days were beyond the time, space, and beyond. It was beyond the beyond. They were rejoicing every moment they spent with Bhagwan, basking in the glory of his energy, the glory of his grace, the glory of his laughter, inimitable, cascading, uproarious laughter. She says they could never forget those days with Bhagwan. They had a glimpse of the beyond, the joy, the eternal joy of the divine. But then The day had come. They had to leave Thiruvanamalai and they had absolutely no mind to leave. Yet, early morning, 5 o'clock, they were tempted to go to Bhagwan to have the last darshan of the trip. And to their wonder, Bhagwan was waiting. 5 o'clock, early morning, he was waiting at this very doorstep. And he blessed them nicely before he gave leave. So they carried Bhagwan's immense blessings with them back to their place, Como, a place by name Como in Italy. And then came an opportunity, a golden opportunity to visit Kailash, Mount Kailash. It was a great challenge to these three people because they were afflicted with many health problems, especially Volga. She was unable to stand, she was unable to walk. In her condition, she could not even think of such a trip. How could she climb, go up to 16,000 feet? So what they did, she even decided that she would take a chance, and if it should happen that she should die on the way, it was still welcome. That's how the Hindus also think. But then they wanted some divine assurance, because Olga thought it was okay if she should die while climbing up, but what if she became a burden to the fellow travelers? That just would not do. She had to think up something to support her health all through the journey. Otherwise, she had to forego. So they gave a telegram to Shri Ganesh Thiruvanamalai Ashram, and he promptly went and asked Bhagwan and described their health problems and still the desire to go to Kailash. The three Italian sisters said if Bhagwan gave permission, they would not think of any other alternative and they would straight away start. And of course, Shri Ganeshana was thinking, how could Bhagwan give permission? He knew they had, especially Volga, had severe health problems. But then to his surprise, to the delight of those Italian sisters, Bhagwan said, let them go. This beggar would pray to his father to protect them, to guide them, to complete it successfully. Shri Ganeshana could not believe his ears that he heard it right. And so did the Italian sisters. They were overwhelmed with joy. And they started to prepare. They had no second thought about it anymore. It just did not matter what problems they had. Bhagwan had given permission and he would accompany them. What did anything else matter? Such was their faith in the presence of Bhagwan, in his grace, and they started to prepare. The day they were going to start for the journey, Olga fell sick. They were thinking of rushing her to a doctor. So much was the problem with her body. But then Olga said, don't bother, we have Yogiji's promise. So whatever medicines I have to take, I would consult the doctor, take the medicine and push off straight. Let's not give another thought to this. And they started. Olga says she did not even think of staying back because Bhagwan's promise was supporting her all the time. When they were climbing up, it was 16,000 feet nearly, the Manasarovar lake and the circumambulation of the mountain Kailash. The mountain Kailash itself was about 23,000. Of course, nobody ever climbed, ever dared to climb Mount Kailash, because there was this belief that those who climbed up would not return alive. Such was the energy of the place. Truly, Milarepa, the famous master, the student of Marpa, another great master, he did his tapas, he did all his meditation in the Himalayan caves. He climbed up. The legend says that he climbed up to the peak of Kailash. When he reported back, he said he forewarned everybody not to even attempt it. He said, God is there. God is living there. The energy is so high. Ordinary people could not bear. They would go to pieces. It's a secret, sacred place of Lord Shiva. So people would not generally attempt it, but then they could do the circumambulation at 16,000 feet. And there were landslides, every opportunity for the landslides, and then walking in the valleys between two steep rocks had its own difficulties, dangers. And then the temperatures, less than freezing temperature. And what was more, the rarefied air with lack of oxygen. One could not take deep breath. It had to be shallow. Challenges and challenges and challenges. With all their health problems, especially for Olga, it was challenge every bit of the way, but she did not mind. She says, all the three sisters said that they could distinctly feel the presence of the divine beggar. In fact, at times, they would look around because they would feel that somebody was there around with them, and then they would look here and there, and they could not find anybody, but the presence was tangible. The invisible companion who accompanied them right from step number 1. When they had to pass through the Dolma Pass, Dolma is the name of a Tibetan goddess, the goddess of compassion. But when they reached there, what happened was something else. There was a blizzard, a very ferocious, furious blizzard, so much so the Sherpas shouted in panic, "Ma'am Sahib, let's run away. We will be dead soon." But then Olga, with all her health problems, did not feel even a trace of fear. That's what she said. When Sherpa was panicking, was shouting, screaming in high pitch, asking these people to hurry away from the place. The blizzard was on. They should have panicked also, and panic would have caused more problems, health problems. But strangely, they felt the presence of Bhagwan and they felt assured that everything would be all right, and there was not even a trace of fear in their hearts. So you see the vibrant, glorious, magnificent presence of Bhagwan all through the invisible companion, helped them every bit of the way, the reliable hand that held us all the time, cushioned their falls against all odds. So this is what I was describing in Tamil this morning. And strangely, soon after I finished my talk, when I went back, I received a photograph of Mount Arunachala. And what do you think I saw? Truly the Kailash. A huge white cloud had descended upon the mountain. The mountain looked completely white, with fluffy clouds here and there, filling up the whole space. There was not a gap. There was not even a line of gap. It was completely filled with this white cloud everywhere. I was reminded of a conversation between Bhagwan and some devotee who was going to visit Kailash, who had come for his blessings. Bhagwan said, "Why are you going to Kailash? Arunachala, the Mount Arunachala is Kailash itself. There is no need to travel all those miles and make this hard climb. Here is our Arunachala. This is nothing but Kailash." And would not allow that person to go. And truly, this morning, after I spoke about Kailash, when I was walking away from Pradhan Mandir, I saw this photograph and I felt absolutely overwhelmed, remembering Bhagwan's words. Now we shall shift to another scene. This is Chennai, a couple by name Sujata and Balasubramanian. It was the year 2009, August. Suddenly there was a decline in the health of Sujata. She soon developed fever, which was not getting any less. And then they found out it was typhoid. She had very hard time getting well. But then one day, she was introduced to Bhagwan's Nama, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, by her niece, sister's daughter. That's again another wonder, a wonderful story. That niece had come here once. People would describe, on look at her, people would say that she was mentally retarded. But then she was glowing. She was chanting Yogi Ramsuratkumar Nama incessantly. And they did not send her to school, but then she studied at home with the help of her mother. Just chanting all the time Yogi Ramsuratkumar Nama. She crossed all those first standard, second standard, third form, third grade. She had come up to 10th grade. 10th standard as we call it here. But when it was 10th standard, her mother was very scared because it was public examination and she should rise up to the occasion. She had to study extra hard. She was very doubtful about it, whether she should allow her to write her public examination. The daughter was persistent. She said, "Ma, Yogi Ramsuratkumar Nama is there for me. Bhagwan is there. He would see me through that. Don't worry." And still the mother was hesitant and she wanted to know what Bhagwan would say, whether he would allow her to go on to complete her 10th standard. And at the time, I believe, when she came out, she saw a car passing by and there was this Nama, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, written at the back of the car. In a place like Chennai, her mother was just very worried about allowing her daughter to study for 10th standard, to sit for the examination, knowing it was public examination. And then she wanted an assurance from Bhagwan. It was not butterfly or anything this time. She saw a car with the name Yogi Ramsuratkumar in a place like Chennai. And what more she wanted? She had the assurance from Bhagwan, and true to that, the girl passed her very well. So this girl said, when Yogi Ramsuratkumar is there, why should you fear? And then Sujata started to chant his name. She was chanting all the time. And she came out of this typhoid. 1 month was gone. And of course her health deteriorated. At that time, in 2010, exactly 1 year after, for Kailash, for climbing, they had a chance. An opportunity came. It was 2010 and July. So when Sujata was very doubtful about her health, her husband Balasubramaniam, who used to come to Thiruvanamalai for this Arunachaleshwara Parikrama, circumambulation of Arunachala mountain, every full moon day, he said, "You are chanting Yogi Ramsuratkumar Nama by the grace of Yogi Ram. You would be able to make it, don't worry." And he paid the money. He booked for both of them for the trip to Kailash. And just imagine, it was, the day was also fixed, the date, it was to be July 3rd. They had to start for Kailash. But again in June, in the month of May itself, she had a problem, health problem, which was getting worse and worse. And one doctor, a relative of hers, said she had blood cancer. You can imagine how upset she became. But then she was chanting, very persistent. And by the grace of the Nama, they found another doctor by name Ramkumar. This Dr. Ramkumar said, after examining her, it was no blood cancer at all. He said instead, in the uterus, they had found something and that could very well be removed. The uterus could be removed. She had to undergo an operation. That was all. And she would pick up all right. So she underwent this operation, the uterus operation. And she had just 1 month after that to make her trip to Kailash. All the time she was chanting. She held on to the name frantically. And then June 24th, she got better by the time. and they wanted to come to the ashram. They came to Thiruvanamalai, went round the mountain, and then they promptly landed in our ashram. It was a Friday, and every Friday in the ashram, Shri Pichandi, the Nageshwara Vidwan, he would be playing for Bhagwan. In the evening, Arati would be attended by this Nageshwara. And then the other instrument, something like Devaki, that would accompany this Nadeshwaram. And so when she entered, she was praying. She was almost crying to Bhagwan. Bhagwan, I have to go to Kailash. Please let me go to Kailash. Please do something. And as she was crying and praying and she entered, she was welcomed by this Nadeshwaram. It is a very auspicious sign, this music of Nadeshwaram, and a kind of Devaki that accompanied it. They would play at every function. It's considered as highly auspicious. So you can imagine how she received it. She was ecstatic when she entered because she thought it was highly auspicious, which it was. That Bhagwan was welcoming her with the auspicious music. And she entered, and they were going round the Samadhi Mandir. At the time, the Arati was to begin, and suddenly I felt I got a command from Bhagwan, call her for Arati. So I looked around and I saw this lady, Sujata, going round. Immediately I went after her. I said, you have to do the Arati. She said, me? You want me to do it? Are you sure? I said, you have to do it because Bhagwan wants you to do it. That's his command. So you have to come and do this Arati. She was besides herself with joy, and she rushed, and then with the tears streaming down her cheeks all the time, she did the Arati for Bhagwan. Now she knew that Bhagwan had given permission, the same promise that he did, that he made to the Italian sisters. Of course, this was different, but she felt the promise inside, the promise of Bhagwan for protection. She was very, very happy, of course, true to that. They went up the mountain, they completed the circumambulation successfully, and they returned with the water from the pure water body, Manasarovar Lake, up there on 16,000 feet. They went with a group. The group's leader was one Shankarji. That group would go to Kailash every year, and they would come to Bhagwan to prostrate before Bhagwan to take his blessings. And then after they finished it successfully, they would come back with the video of the trip and also the Manasarovar water for Abhisheka for Bhagwan. They told me that they had many experience there up on the mountain, and once they came across at a distance, they could see a golden anklet right on the icy surface of the mountain. Just a little away, they saw that, of course, it was beyond the danger line, and nobody would dare attempt to go there, but they could clearly see the golden anklet of Parvati Devi. And at one point, when they were doing this inner Kora means the circumambulation, It's a Tibetan word. And they were doing inner parikrama, inner circumambulation. And there they came across one cave and they saw two figures completely ice made. And they took a photograph also. And they brought the photograph to me when they came back. It was a wonder of wonders. It was Parvati and Parameshwara. The exact shape of Lord Shiva with Parvati. It was as though they had been walking there near the cave and they were caught by these people, and then they became two ice figures. It causes horripilation. Because around them, the cave, there was very little ice around, but these two figures were there right at the doorstep of the cave, Parameshwara and Parvati. One could see even Parvati's crown and the matted hair of Lord Shiva in that form of ice. So you see, all this is possible. The very trip is made possible for people who could not even think of going there, far less climb such heights like 16,000, the rarefied air, the blizzards, the landslides, those narrow valleys, and the sudden unexpected rain showers. Above all, the slippery, icy ground. The grace is above all this, and our very life can be compared to climbing up the mountain, Kailash. There are up slopes and down slopes. Bhagwan, when people came to visit him, sometimes he would sit with them and show them the mountain and tell them, just look at the peak for some time. At least for 1 hour, sometimes he would make people look at the peak. He prescribed it as a sadhana, meditation sadhana for some people. To reach the peak, the deepam that they light here is nothing but Lord Shiva himself. And that's why lakhs of people gather here to watch the deepam, to worship the deepam, which is verily the Lord Shiva. So let's remember, the very structure of the mountain is such that there are upslopes and downslopes. And when we climb up the upslope, we know that we are progressing towards a peak. But sometimes the downslopes that we cross might appear as a setback. And we might think negatively, what is this? It's a setback. I'm not progressing anymore. But remember, the very structure of the mountain is such. There are upslopes and downslopes, and you have to cross every one of them to reach the peak. But it's always to reach the peak. And therefore, every step, the up climb and the down climb, all of them go together to make the journey a successful journey and towards a peak. So Bhagwan used to say that whatever happens is progress, no setback. It is part of your sadhana, it's part of your progress. So one need not feel upset about it or think negatively. Everything happens only by Father's grace, and whatever happens is necessary for our spiritual growth, and therefore it's a definite blessing for our journey, our pilgrimage to the peak. Now this Bhagwan is here right in front of us, with his hand raised in gesture of blessing. Let us submit our today's prayers. Bhagwan, we seek your immediate divine intervention to remove the panic from the hearts of people, to stop, to arrest the spread of the disease, to free the world from the clutches of this dreadful virus and bring back normalcy to the world, and to give protection to all those brave soldiers in the field who are fighting the disease for the sake of the others. And Bhagwan, they say a vaccine is ready for treatment. Please enter this vaccine, make it potent, make it this corona killer. And Bhagwan, give a boost to the economy and support all the steps taken towards its progress. And above all, bless us to remember you constantly by chanting your name and go about our life's actions as an instrument in your hands, a fitting instrument in your hands. Jai Yogi Ramsuratkumar.